South Africa's decision of being in or out the International Criminal Court continues to grab attention. We now get the perspective of Amnesty International to tell us their position in terms of what the country needs to do, or at least what they perceive the country needs to do. Sbusiso Kasa is with the Amnesty International South Africa, and he is a campaigner there. Thank you very much, Sbusiso, for your time this afternoon. The position of Amnesty International?
Thank you, and good afternoon to the viewers. So in terms of our position as Amnesty International, we still believe that the International Criminal Court remains a key instrument in terms of, when it comes to international justice. And that's because the court has an ability to sort of step in where governments or states are not willing or not able to prosecute or even investigate crimes against humanity, war crimes and genocide. And if you look at the court's success, there are some successes. If you look at the case of Dominic Ongwen from the Lord's Resistance Army in Uganda, who was found guilty of 61 counts of crimes against humanity, and that includes things like murder, rape. And that brings justice to the victims on the ground. And also there's another example of Bosco Ntaganda in the DRC, who also was found guilty of 18 counts of crimes against humanity and war crimes. And that shows you that at least there is something that the court brings in terms of justice for the victims, and that's where our interest is. And if you look at both cases, where those cases were referred to the court by the government of those particular countries, which is Uganda and the DRC.
And what do you say to some sectors of society that the so-called justice is marginal, or at least one-sided, where it takes a look at crimes that have been committed, perhaps, for instance, on the continent?
Well, it is a legitimate argument, to be honest with you, to do, because if you look at some of the decisions that were taken in 2020 by the court in terms of not proceeding with deciding not to investigate the war crimes that were committed by UK troops in Iraq, that was a questionable decision that the court took. And also in 2021, when it comes to the decision not to investigate crimes committed in Afghanistan by US troops and Afghan forces in 2021, that was also another key decision that has been a bit problematic, and as one of those reasons in terms of the US case, the court cited things like budget constraints, for instance. So that's problematic, because if you look at the Ukraine case, where the court ended up somehow finding funds to make sure that it investigates the crimes that have been committed in the Ukraine. So it is a legitimate debate, and as Amnesty International, we have been speaking out against it. But despite that being said, by the way, we still believe that the court it remains a key institution in terms of making sure that those who are perpetrators of crimes against humanity and war crimes can be held accountable. What we need to do is that we need to see countries which are state parties to the Rome Statute, including South Africa, by the way, to ensure, because first of all, they are responsible for providing oversight and also making sure in terms of making sure that budget is available for such cases. So we need those countries to also step up in terms of trying to find reforms as to how can the court proceed in terms of transforming international justice. And also don't forget that those particular countries, which include South Africa, they're also responsible for the appointment of judges and prosecutors at the court, and they are also responsible if at some stage they feel that certain judges must be removed. They can do so through a secret ballot.
Democratic South Africa turns 29 today. Your assessment of the country?
Well, it isn't a good picture. There are some things that we can celebrate. Obviously, you have things like freedom of movement. Even next year, we are going to the elections, and many people can participate in that. And there are some progress in terms of improved access to education, but also there are questions around quality. There are problems in terms of quality education. You talk about issues around overcrowding in classrooms. Even today, we're still talking about pit toilets, which is something that we shouldn't be talking about. You look at the health situation, most of the health facilities are not providing the quality health care that people need, and many people still are left without access to health care, and that also includes some migrants who have been turned away from some of these particular institutions. If you look at the issue of load shedding, it does also affect those particular rights in terms of access to water and also in terms of access to health. So the picture is not that bright, because obviously people are always complaining every day, but there are those some of the issues that we can sort of look at and say, okay, there is progress, but there are also some places whereby we've been sort of taking some steps back, which is unfortunate.
Looking at the future, what is it that you and I can do?
Well, myself and you, what we can do is to continue to try and hold the government accountable, because they have the obligations in terms of making sure that these rights are fulfilled.
Sibusiso Kasa is with Amnesty International, and he's a campaigner there. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.